Welcome then to The Future Waits in 2022. I have to ask you, what waits for you? Do you know? Well, only you can decide. And this can be your best year yet if you are intentional about your goals. And that's why I asked you to make sure you had one in mind when you came today. And I want you to watch the 2021 webinars that are in the chat box there for you, because one of them is on the process of setting goals. That's what we did in January of 2021. And the next one in April, the people that attended the first one wanted a follow-up. And so we did one in April, and I focused on visualization. And so today, this is like the third one that's going to be on goal setting. And today we're going to focus on the successes and failures that come along with 2022. Because anytime that you will aim for something in the future, if you aim for a goal, you're going to have successes and failures, because it's not a smooth route just to that goal. And we're going to be talking about how you have grit, how you can build more grit and resilience, and we're going to define failure. So let's get started. The agenda for today, as I've been talking about, is to understand the relationship between failure and success, because there is one. And then we're going to review the principles from goal setting and goal getting, which was Q1. And then we will review the visualization principles, that was Q2 in 2021. And those will just be at the end, because we're going to spend most of our time talking about success and failure. Remember that in 2021, we talked about the need for right thoughts and right actions. And that's what gives you success. So today I'd like to pick it up on right thoughts again, because we're going to build on that. Remember in 2021, I told you that the negative and the positive have a pull on you every single day. And they run parallel in my mind. And you cast the deciding vote whether you're going to be a negative or a positive person. And when you're a negative person, or when you choose to be in that, to be on the side of negativity, then you build a wall of negativity around you. And when you do this, the positive vibes can't get to you. The positive things that are out there in the universe will hit that wall of negativity, and it will bounce right back. And so the wall of negativity here is like, if you've been rejected and you hold on to that, or you're fearful of going forward, or you have self-downing inside of you, you have negative self-talk, or you feel a lot of distress and your perceptions of things are negative, you find things that you can't control, you're angry about things, and you feel very sorrowful, well, that's all a wall of negative, that's the wall of negativity. And so I found this by Seth Godin, and I thought it really fit here, because he says, I might as well quit. How many times have you felt that way? And these are all the excuses that he gives for, I might as well quit. Well, there's a better cause around the corner, so I just won't try this one. It might not work. Well, you're right. It might not work, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't try. You'll never be able to keep all the promises. Well, that may be true, but you'll keep most of them. It can't last forever. No, nothing lasts forever. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. It relates to the S-curve. We're all going to die. Yeah, you're right. We are all going to die, but why not live life the best you can while you're here in this moment? It's not perfect. No, it's not perfect, but things can be perfectly wonderful. They don't have to be perfect. Someone might steal my idea. Well, they might, but if you make it bigger and better, then you'll still be ahead. There will be critics. Yeah, there will be critics everywhere, all the time. Someone else is going to do it. Well, if you're out there first, they'll be the copycat. I'm not ready. Well, that's what we're talking about today. We want you to be ready for the next experience in your life. Then Seth Godin says, on the other hand, now is better than later. Perfect is an illusion. You have to act as if. And then he says, simply begin. Make things better by making better things. And you can always improve it later. And I love that, because I have found out that everything in my life can be improved in some way. And so we start, we make it as good as we can right now, and then we improve it later. So what we're talking about here and what Seth Godin's saying is that you can build a wall of self-esteem or a wall of self-worth. And if you do, then you send positive vibes out into the universe, out into the world. And I promise you, positive things come back to you. And when the negative vibes come and hit this wall, then they bounce away from you. Even though we're going to have successes and failures, that most of the negativity will bounce away from you because you're living in the positive. You're sending it out and you're getting positive things back to you. So now I'd like to go into grit. And I have defined grit today as a relationship between failure and success. And I have called the G growing pains. Okay, we have growing pains all the time in our life. But let's just go back to childhood. When you were learning to walk, did you have growing pains? Yeah. Did it bother you that you fell down? No, because you just got right up again. I have a granddaughter that keeps climbing and climbing on things that if she falls off of would be quite dangerous. And so we have to kind of watch this child, but she doesn't believe in failure. Okay, she's just going forward. And it's the same way when you're trying to learn an instrument, when you're trying to build a skill. I use the piano here, and because I teach piano, and I have played the piano all my life, and it's a beautiful instrument. But one time when I was in a lesson with my son and he made a mistake, the teacher said something I have never forgotten. She said, well, just act like you meant to do it. If you played an F and it was supposed to be an F sharp, just make it sound like you meant to play it that way. And I thought, what a beautiful attitude about mistakes and failures is you just make it part of what you're doing. So kind of put that in your hat and remember that. And you go on into the baseball, into any of the sports worlds. Everyone makes mistakes in the sports world, and especially when you're learning. But do you quit? No, you don't quit. You keep going. And so I went back and I studied some of the things and wanted to bring you some of the sports, you might say, icons. And I learned about Babe Ruth, you know, the home run hitter. His batting average was only 342, which means he missed a lot of balls. And then you come to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan says that he missed 9,000 shots in his career, but we know how many that he made and how successful he was. And then I was interested in Pete Rose because Pete Rose was a famous catcher. And by the way, his batting average was only 3.303, let me put it that way. And he wanted to break Ty Cobb's hitting record, and he was 78 hits short. And this was in spring training. And the reporter that was there said, you know, well, you're going to break Ty Cobb's record this year, probably. How many hits do you think it will take to break Ty Cobb's record? You need 78. And Pete Rose said, 78 hits. He says, if I don't expect to get a hit when I get up to bat, I don't deserve to get up to bat. And I thought that that was a powerful statement about the positive expectation that you have when we are in this stage of trying to grow grit and trying to understand the growing pains that we have and the errors and the mistakes that we will make as we grow. So let's just go to some other famous people, not sports figures, but Henry Ford said that failure is simply the opportunity to begin again. And this time, more intelligently. Do you catch that? Yeah. We're going to begin again more intelligently. I love that statement. And Bill Gates said, it's fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lessons of failure. So growing pains means that you put your foot out there, you try to climb, and when you succeed, you get up again and you keep going. Albert Einstein said, success is failure in progress. Failure in progress. And then we come to Elon Musk, who you know that Elon Musk was the named Times Man of the Year this year. And I had a lot of fun researching him. He's the richest man in the world. I believe it's 79.4 billion is what he's worth. He was, and just a little bit about his failures, which you could read about. And if you just will Google Elon Musk's failures, they'll pop right up, a couple of articles, which I found. And it said that he was rejected by Netscape. Let me get it right. Netscape. They would not hire him. So he founded Zip2, which is the forerunner of PayPal. And when they were trying to get PayPal started, he lived on the premises with some of the other people that were helping him, lived on the premises. You get that? That means they worked a lot. But then he was ousted as CEO. Then he started Tesla. And when he started Tesla, he went bankrupt. And his personal wealth was gone because he took the bankruptcy and then he used his own wealth, which was the money that he earned from PayPal. And so he was, which was 35 million, and it was all gone. And he had to take personal loans from friends. And he and his engineers slept on the factory floor. So what he says is really pay attention to negative feedback and solicit it, particularly from friends. Hardly anyone does that, and it's incredibly helpful. So we know that in his innovation stage, he's now the founder of Tesla, the electric car, and SpaceX. I'd like to go to space, right? And so what we're saying here as we look at failure is that there are failures, but look at them only as lessons, and then solicit the feedback from your trusted friends and see what they tell you. And you'll be surprised how supportive those friends can be to you. So you can see that these people also bring us to resiliency, and I would like to just point out that these words are pretty related, right? Because you have resiliency and innovation's a little different, but you have tenacity down there. So we have resiliency and tenacity, and we're going to talk a little more about that. So here we have now resiliency. And I don't know if you like this cartoon, but I thought it was funny. He says, relax, I'm practicing my bounce back skills. Resiliency is the ability to bounce back. It's the ability to reevaluate and still be strong as you go forward. So here, and I'd like to make this point because not all of us, see, I have over here, not a famous celebrity yet. Sometimes you don't know what's inside of you. But I would like to point out that some of these people, for instance, like Elon Musk, doesn't have a family. So he's, in a way, he's all into his career, you might say, and not much into the family. I don't know if he's into the health, but friends, I've heard that he's really hard to work for, very hard to work for. So he achieves a lot, but I don't know if he has friends. So I'm saying that there's a balance here, and some things you give up, and you may not be willing to give those up in order to attain other things in life. So you have to think about the life balance and what the values are, what you value, and what you're willing to put on the line when you set these goals and as you have growing pains. So I wanted to bring you this information and help you think about that just a little bit, because these are sources of discouragement that require resiliency or bounce back ability. And I know that you could add more to this, but it's like lack of sleep, long work hours, commute time, project deadlines, bosses, coworkers, technology, spouses, kids, partners, elderly parents, extended family, house cleaning, fixing food, bills. You see how all of these things are part of life that we have to deal with. And they can be sources of discouragement and require bounce back ability and resiliency, because when you're trying to reach your goals, you have to wade through all of these things and still try to reach your goal. So here's another funny cartoon. Workplace conflict? Yeah, I would say there's a little bit of workplace conflict there. And that does dampen our spirits at times. But we want to look at those as growth, right? And then here we have this one. The 3 little pigs are suing you for bullying them. Yeah. In this one, this potion will get you promoted, but I can't guarantee a bonus. So you see all the things that we have to fight for in the world, as well as going for our goals. And I love this one. Oh my God, I forgot I had children. Have you ever felt that way when you've come home from work? I mean, look at her hair. Yeah. So these are all the things that we have to go through. But what I want to bring out to you today is that resiliency is refueling and replenishing. It's a renewable resource. And I love this picture because it's the sunshine, it's the outdoors sometimes that will give you that feeling of renewal and refueling and replenishing what's inside of you. Because if you've had a really bad week, a really bad month, you can be calm, be quiet, and replenish and refuel your body and mind and spirit. Now, along with resiliency, these are a couple of stress principles that I teach, and they're very powerful when it comes to resiliency because you have the power of choice. And what this means is that you label everything. This comes from a book called Kicking Your Stress Habit. And it says that you label everything. If you have a fight with your spouse or your partner, you label that bad. Or you can say, whoa, that sure cleared the air. If you get a stern look from the boss, you can say, whoa, what a grouch. Or you can say, oh, he or she is just preoccupied today. And if you have rain and you expected to go out on a picnic, you can either say, well, the day's ruined. So you're building that wall of negativity. Or you can say, we're going to read, or we're going to put a puzzle together, or something like that. So which label do you attach to it? Think about that. And this is one that I love too, because this is the Albert Ellis model of psychological filters. And what Albert Ellis said is that you have an activating event. It's just an event. And you run it through your filters. What do you believe about this? What are your expectations? What are your evaluations about this event? Do you have past experiences that you're filtering this through? And what is your personality? Because some personalities will see things, everything is, rose-colored glasses. Everything's great. It's a good day to have a good day. And then other people see the negative side, or kind of the doom and gloom. And that's naturally built into the personalities. And so we have to overcome that. If you're one that definitely looks at things more on the gloomy side or the critical side, you have to overcome that. But let me give you just an example of this and how it can play out in your life. Let's say that there's two students and they are going in for the trigonometry test in high school. One of them wants an A because they're going to get into the school, the college of their choice. The other one says, you know what? If I get an 80 on this class and just get out of high school, I'm going to be so glad. And so they both, the one expecting 100 and the one expecting an 80, they both get 90. So that's the activating event. And they're running it through all their beliefs, their psychological filters. And the one that expected 100 is depressed. And the one that expected the 80 and got a 90 is going, look at me. Who would have thought that I could have gotten a 90 on this test? So their filters determine their coping response. And so when it comes to bounce back ability and resiliency and grit, how are you labeling and how are you viewing the things that happen to you? And can you change that around? Now let's talk for a few minutes about innovation. Innovation means that you're going to find a way through the maze. Remember, if you've done these before, you know how you go down and you find the dead end and you have to back up and you go again. Well, when we're innovating, when we're trying something new, when we're setting goals, it's going to be the same way. Because when you set a goal, it's never a straight line towards that goal. It always weaves back and forth. And you try things and you try new things. And if you get stopped, some people will just stop. But if you are a true goal setter and you have true grit and you have resiliency and bounce back ability, you're going to find another way to do it. In fact, I heard a speech by Les Brown years ago, and he said, if there's not a door, I'm going to cut one out. And I think that's the attitude that you have to have as you go through this, this maze and as you look for new things that you want to do and set your goals. Now, this is a concept that I haven't taught for a long time, but it is that change is predictable. And we have to start new S-curves, which is innovation. So what this means is that down here at the bottom of the S-curve, you're working hard, and you almost don't see any improvement. And then all of a sudden, it just takes off. and it becomes easy. And you're saying, whoa, weren't we good? Yeah, we really read the marketplace. And then it stops working and you don't know why. Well, it stops working because you have to innovate. You have to start a new S-curve. And that's what's happening as each one of us are looking at these goals. We're trying to start new S-curves in our lives. We're trying to start new S-curves in our businesses. And heavens knows we've been through all of these COVID months. And if we have not innovated, we're on the downward side, okay? So I want you to look around your industry. And this is if, you know, in your job, you do the same thing in your personal life. But you observe the industry, you listen to employees, you listen to customers, and then you start new S-curves. So in your own personal life, I want you to think about starting new S-curves, and that's what the goals are. They are new S-curves for you to start. Whether it's a new way of eating, we're all into eating and exercise, right? Or if it's learning new things, I forgot to mention that when it comes to what stops me is technology. I don't have a technology mind, and sometimes I wish I had majored in computer science, because everything I need to do, all of my S-curves that I want to start in 2022 involve technology. So I have to start learning new programs. I have to start learning new ways to work Facebook and to work LinkedIn and to work Instagram and all the other social media things that are out there. So these are new S-curves, and you start new S-curves every single time you try something new with them. So think about what S-curve you might start. Now we're going to go back to Elon Musk for just a minute. Because remember, I told you about some of the things that he had failures on the way. But what he said about innovation is failure is an option. That's kind of amazing, isn't it? Failure is an option. But if things are not failing, you're not innovating enough. Okay, so start those new S-curves and see what happens. And I got to tell you, I'm not really a Bob Dylan philosophy person. I don't necessarily go along with all his philosophies, or I don't go along with all of his music all the time. I like some of the things that he wrote, like Blowing in the Wind and Knocking on Heaven's Door and a couple of things like that. But when I was searching change, quotes for change, this is what popped up. He who is not busy being born is busy dying. Now, we know we're all dying, and I don't want you to take that in a morbid sense. But what I'm putting across here is that if you're not innovating, if you're not starting these S-curves, then you're heading towards obsolescence. And now let's talk about tenacity, and then we'll review our processes from the other webinars. I like this picture, and I like what's called, let me start over. So-called failure occurs daily in jobs, interpersonal relationships, and within families. It's unavoidable, irritating, causes pessimism and discouragement. Instead of slinging your hands up in the air and walking away, which is a very appealing course of action, remember Seth Godin said all these reasons why we don't do it. Take a deep breath and give yourself a second to rethink. Then put a foot in front of you and burst through the barrier. So remember that you're going to start a new S-curve. Okay, some people who started new S-curves was J.K. Rowling. And she said, I had failed on an epic scale. An exceptionally short-lived marriage had imploded, and I was jobless, a lone parent, and as poor as possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. The fears that my parents had had for me and that I had for myself had both come to pass. And by every usual standard, I was the biggest failure I knew. But yet she went on. She started new S-curves and she created Harry Potter. I mean, her imagination, when I watched Harry Potter with my grandchildren, it's like, wow. And I can still see some of those things. How did she come up with all those ideas and see that bus tuttling back and forth up and down the streets in England? I mean, going through the wall. I mean, her imagination is amazing. And she definitely started new S-curves. Mike Krzyzewski, legendary coach at Duke University, said, never forget a loss. It may be the key to victory. And I was privy to a conversation when in 1991, when he won his first NCAA title. He won back-to-back NCAA titles in 1991 and 1992. And in 1991, they lost badly to Georgia Tech right here in Atlanta. And when he got on the bus that night, It was dead silent, of course. And he merely said, if you men live up to your potential, you will win a national championship this year. So he teaches people to look for why they lost and how that can make them improve. And of course, then you have Muggsy Bogues. I love this picture. Muggsy Bogues was 5'3". That's shorter than I am. And here in this picture, he's guarding Bill Laimbeer, who's 6'11". I mean, it's almost a comical picture, is it not? But if you were Muggsy Bogues' high school basketball coach, would you have encouraged him to aim for the NBA? No, but he did. And he said that all the children in the audience love him because they think he's one of them. Now, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because no one knows what your future is. No one knows what you can achieve or what's inside of you. You have to decide. The future waits for you, and you have to decide what it's going to be. So with that passionate plea for you to look deep inside, let's just review in the next few minutes the right actions that you take. And I put these files in the in your files there. You can download different files there, and I put the right action. I put the goal setting sheet in there again for you. So now the right actions mean that you're actually going to take the right actions, which means you're going to use the goal setting process to write your goal down. And remember that planning is the key. So you're going to have yearly goals, but no, make that yearly goal, but then just focus on Q1. We're going to have those monthly goals and master task lists and weekly task lists and daily task lists. That's the process. And what you want to do is break that Q1 goal down into tasks that can go on your daily task list, because with everything else that's going on, all the distractions, all the problems that you have, all the deadlines that you have, all the family issues that you have to be doing at least one thing a day to help you reach that goal. So remember, this was how I defined it, is that you focus on Q1 and you decide your professional, personal, long-term goal, and then you decide how to achieve the goal. It's not just resolve, it's a decision. Then you make your goals SMART. You plan lead and lag indicators. And if you've forgotten what that means, go and watch the video. You use strategic thinking and tactical planning so that you make the tasks that can go on a to-do list on specific days. That's the goal. And this is the sheet that I gave you. So you have your goal statement up here. Notice it's Q1. And then you describe your goal in specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic timeframes. And then here you write down 3 things that will help you reach that goal. And then you have the strategic thinking, which leads to the tactical steps. And here's where you break those tasks down on so that they go on a specific daily to-do list. And then, of course, you can check it off. So just as a reminder, the lead indicator is what tells you that you can do so that you reach the goal. The lag indicator means that you reached it. And that's what tells what happened there. So now the 2021 visualization and goal setting here. Remember, we talked about how your brain and your nervous system become like a servo mechanism. It's a goal-seeking, goal-striving device, like the guided torpedo or missile. And so once it's locked on its target, it seeks it out. And that is the secret of visualization. So you visualize what you want to achieve in the future, and it locks it into your head, and it moves you forward in strange and mysterious ways. Because you want to create visualization in your mind of yourself succeeding. Because what they tell us, I mean, all the scientists, tell us that your brain doesn't distinguish real from imaginary. So if you imagine yourself shooting these baskets and being successful, all of a sudden it starts to happen in your body as well. So your brain and your nervous system work like a servo mechanism. So set your goal, then visualize it, and you'll gain inner empowerment as you see the many things that you can do that will move you in the right direction. It keeps the goal in the forefront of your mind. It focuses your willpower and creates that belief in yourself. Remember, we want that wall of self-worth, that wall of self-esteem that keeps the negative out. Now, one other little motivational message I have for you before we end this, okay? And we end our session on grit. I watched this movie, The Darkest Hour, which won several. By the way, Gary Oldman, who won the Best Actor, won several Best Actors awards for it. And it's the story of when the Nazis were trying to overtake England, and some of them wanted to appease Hitler. And Churchill said, "Do you want the swastika flying above Buckingham Palace?" And he wanted to know what the people thought. So he went down on the subway and talked to the people on the subway. And there was one man there who looked him in the eye because they all wanted to fight. They did not want to give up England. And he said, "They'll never take Piccadilly Square." Now, do you see the passion? Do you see how you have to feel about your goals so that you can reach them? Because they went ahead and won. They freed England from, they didn't let the Nazis in. They kept the Nazis out of England. And I think that's the way we have to look at our goals. So do you have grit? What makes you feel successful? What do you need to learn? Do you have passion? Like they'll never take Piccadilly Square. What do I fear? Am I determined? Do I have the courage to step forward? And I know that you do. Because grit plus passion overcomes procrastination and equals life breakthroughs. And I like this picture because, see, it's darkest before the dawn. You might get discouraged, but if you have true grit and keep going, pathways will open up for you. And that is my message for you today. Now, Brondo Power Institute can help you with private coaching, team events, and leadership retreats in these topics. Leadership and discretionary effort, which is built on my book, How to Earn the Gift of Discretionary Effort. The DISC and driving forces, which we are having a certification of that in February. Emotional intelligence, that's very new, but the newest thing that is coming in leadership is that you have to have emotional intelligence so that you know how to key into people and how to motivate them. And then stress and positive attitudes. I've shared a couple of things with you today about how I teach stress. And then time management and goal setting. And all of these topics are ones that I'm an expert in and that I have taught for many years. And I do hope that you can take advantage of some of those. Now, as we're closing, are there any questions? I'm going to go over to the chat. And of course, we have the goal setting there. But if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. So my wish for you today, I don't see any comments coming in, but thank you for attending and would love to have your comments. You can send me an email at carla@carlabrondo.com, and you can visit my website at www.carlabrondo.com. Thank you for attending. I hope you've been inspired, and I hope that you have reviewed the process to reach your goals and that you in 2022 have a fabulous year, because the future waits for you, and you can only decide what it will hold for you, because you will have successes and failures as you go forward. So thank you for attending, and we'll see you in the next webinar.